The Galactic Empire had never heard of Earth, or at least that's what they claimed. For millennia, the Empire had swept across the stars, conquering planets, exterminating species, and absorbing anything that didn't fight back hard enough. So, when Earth finally managed to send its first real ambassador, or rather, a ragtag squad of soldiers on a peacekeeping mission, the Empire didn't take it seriously. They barely considered it worth the trouble to acknowledge, let alone prepare for. Sergeant Nathan Hayes knew this well. As his boots clunked on the metallic floor of the alien ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that his arrival wasn't going to be met with the fanfare of a victorious hero. No, instead, he was being led into the depths of the Galactic Empire's grand space station, somewhere deep in the fringes of the galaxy. His mission, or rather his job, which was more like a glorified babysitting assignment, was to help Earth integrate into the galactic fold, a task that sounded both dangerous and absurd. Aboard the station, alien soldiers loomed over him. Tall, reptilian beings with shimmering scales and too many teeth. They had a look in their eyes that suggested they'd seen death and enjoyed it, a far cry from the warm, welcoming greetings Hayes had hoped for. As the group of Earth soldiers filed into the alien facility, they were met with scoffs, sneers, and side-eye glances that carried all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The Galactic Empire had no respect for humans, and it showed in every glacial movement of the aliens. One of the aliens, a hulking brute with a head that looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a cactus, jabbed a long finger at Hayes. "You human, what is this?" he barked, his voice laced with condescension. "It's called a uniform," Hayes said, trying and failing to suppress a grin. "We have these things on Earth, you know? Sort of like, look how serious I am, kind of thing." The alien blinked, his expression morphing from mild confusion to genuine distaste. He didn't know how to process sarcasm. Hayes couldn't help but think this whole thing was like sending a kitten into a lion's den and expecting the lion to feel sorry for it. Unfortunately, the kitten was about to learn that lions didn't care for kittens. As they were led down the cold, echoing hallways of the station, Hayes couldn't help but notice how disorganized the whole place seemed. It was as if the aliens spent so much time building their massive empire and crafting their terrifying weaponry that they forgot to train their staff in basic hospitality. One alien soldier almost tripped over its own tentacle, tentacle, while trying to escort them, but thankfully for its dignity, Hayes wasn't the type to laugh at such things. "Okay, maybe just a little. We're here to discuss a treaty," Hayes said, trying to sound authoritative as they entered a large chamber. It was more of a holding room, though, with thick glass walls and uncomfortable chairs that looked like they belonged to a design nightmare. On the other side of the glass, a group of alien officials stared at them, looking as bored as a toddler being asked to eat broccoli. "Treaty? All right." A low voice came from behind Hayes. A commander stepped into view, Commander Threx, a cold, calculating leader with eyes like molten silver. He studied Hayes with a mix of curiosity and contempt. "I'm sorry, I'm just not sure what I'm looking at here. What exactly is your military?" he asked, waving his hand dismissively in the air. "My military?" Hayes cocked an eyebrow. "You know, guns, soldiers, planes, that whole thing?" Threx chuckled, a sound like grinding stone. "Yes, but your military. How quaint. I imagine your guns are about as sophisticated as a child's toy." The smugness in Threx's voice made Hayes want to punch something, preferably Threx's smug face. But, as much as he loathed the condescension, he kept his cool. The galaxy doesn't know what it's in for, he thought. Sure, Earth's weapons were not on par with the Empire's, but the Empire didn't have the heart of humanity. That was something they'd soon discover. The aliens didn't seem to care much about their guests, and after a few hours of frustratingly dull conversation, the Earth soldiers were led away to a holding cell. The cell was anything but secure. It was more of a room with walls that hummed faintly, giving off a strange, slightly unsettling blue glow. There was no bed, no cot, just the cold floor and the whir of alien machinery in the distance. As they sat on the floor, one of the human soldiers, Private Andy Bowers, nudged Hayes. "Think they'll kill us?" Hayes considered the question. "I wouldn't be surprised. You think they'll feed us?" Bowers asked, his voice hopeful. "If by feed, You mean make us starve to death in front of a crowd? Then sure, I think they'll feed us. The soldiers laughed, though the humor didn't reach Hayes' eyes. He had a sinking feeling that this whole mission was doomed from the start. They might have been on the brink of intergalactic diplomacy, but the first step into the Galactic Empire had already revealed something essential. Humanity, no matter how resilient, was nothing more than a sideshow to these aliens. And no matter how many times they told themselves that they would prevail, the harsh truth remained, this was not Earth's world to win, As Hayes sat, deep in thought, he heard the sound of boots clicking down the hall, accompanied by the low hum of alien voices. The door to their cell slid open, revealing a pair of alien guards. They were laughing, clearly amused by something. "Ready to die yet, human?" one of them asked, flashing a toothy grin. Hayes, never one to back down, stood up slowly, meeting their gaze with defiance. "I haven't even begun to start fighting." The guards snickered, their laughter dripping with disdain. Hayes would have loved to explain to them that the galaxy had severely underestimated one thing: the strength of the human will. But for now, he'd let them laugh. It wouldn't be long before they wouldn't be laughing anymore. And with that, he turned his back on them, already plotting how he would make them regret every second of this. The cell had been silent for what felt like hours. Sergeant Hayes sat against the cold wall, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room in quiet contemplation. He'd been here before, locked in a holding cell, surrounded by enemy forces who thought they had the upper hand. But this time, it was different. This time, the enemy wasn't just any force. It was the Galactic Empire. And this time, humanity wasn't just fighting to survive. This time, they were fighting for their very dignity. The door slid open with a hiss, and in stepped a pair of the alien guards. One was a towering, six-armed brute with a body that looked like a walking tree trunk, while the other was lean, serpentine, and slithering, with glowing red eyes that could pierce through metal. They regarded the humans with the same disdain that one might show an insect on the sidewalk. Hayes stood to face them, unflinching, his soldiers falling into formation behind him. Commander Threx's voice rang out over the comm, a dry, humorless chuckle cutting through the air. "Bring them to the main chamber. It's time for the Earthlings to learn their place." Hayes didn't flinch. He had seen worse. He had dealt with worse. But something told him that this time, the alien forces were going to take their fun a bit too far. The human soldiers were led through the labyrinthine halls of the alien facility, their boots clanking against the metallic floors in unison, each step a reminder that they were out of their element. But the Earth soldiers were no strangers to adversity, and they carried themselves with the quiet confidence that came from centuries of overcoming impossible odds. As they entered the main chamber, the atmosphere shifted. The air was thick with the presence of the Galactic Empire's finest. A dozen alien officials stood in rows, each species more bizarre than the next, their eyes scanning the humans with a mix of amusement and disinterest. At the front of the room sat Commander Threx, who looked every bit the part of a high-ranking Imperial officer. His cold, reptilian eyes gleamed with mockery, and his jagged teeth curled into a predatory grin as he took in the sight of the human soldiers before him. Hayes squared his shoulders, doing his best to look unimpressed. It didn't matter that they were outnumbered or that these aliens probably considered them nothing more than a curiosity. He would show them that humanity wasn't to be trifled with. So, Threx began, his voice as smooth as oil and just as slippery. "This is what passes for a military on Earth, is it?" He waved a dismissive hand in their direction. "I had expected more grandeur. More strength, perhaps?" His laughter echoed through the chamber, the other aliens joining in with their own, more guttural chuckles. Hayes gritted his teeth, but didn't let it show. He knew what was coming next. The alien soldiers were about to remind them how utterly outmatched they were. "You see, Earthlings," Threx continued, "your technology is nothing more than a toy compared to the marvels of the Galactic Empire." He stepped down from his platform, his long claws tapping against the floor as he approached Hayes. "You believe yourselves to be warriors? You're nothing more than children playing with sticks and stones." One of the soldiers behind Hayes muttered under his breath, "They should try playing with our sticks and stones." "Keep it together, Bowers," Hayes hissed, but a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Humor was often the best weapon in situations like this. It was their armor, their way of retaining control in the face of ridicule. Threx tilted his head as if he had overheard Bowers. Ah yes. How charming. A little rebellion. How quaint. He waved his hand again, and two more guards stepped forward, dragging a heavy, metallic device into the center of the room. We're going to have a little demonstration, Earthlings, to show you just how laughable your weapons are. Hayes's eyes flicked to the device. It was some kind of advanced weapon, a hybrid of energy and matter designed to incapacitate without causing permanent harm. The kind of weapon an advanced civilization would consider humane. You see, we have perfected the art of subjugation, Threx said, his voice dripping with disdain. While your people rely on clunky, unreliable firearms, we have this. With a flourish, he gestured toward the weapon. Let's see if your soldier here has the fortitude to withstand it. He turned to Hayes with a cruel smile. Step forward, Sergeant. Show us your courage. Hayes stepped forward, the air in the room suddenly thick with tension. He wasn't sure if this was some kind of test, or if they were genuinely planning to use the device on him. Either way, he wasn't about to back down. He'd survived worse situations, plenty of worse situations, and he'd come out on top each time. Come on, Hayes, Bowers muttered. Just make it quick. I'm not sure I can stand another round of their jokes. Threx raised an eyebrow. Jokes? You think we're joking, human? Hayes locked eyes with him, straightening up. No, I think you're about to regret this. The alien commander's smile widened. Ah, you humans are amusing. You have this bravado, this misplaced belief that you can overcome anything. Let's see how long that holds up. He turned to the guards. Activate it. The weapon hummed to life, the air around it crackling with energy. Hayes braced himself, knowing that whatever happened, he had to remain calm, unyielding. He didn't know if this was some kind of intimidation tactic or if the aliens were genuinely trying to break him, but he wasn't about to let them have the satisfaction of seeing him flinch. But then the device malfunctioned. With a sputter and a flash, the machine sputtered and sparked, the energy field flickering erratically before the entire thing shut down with a resounding pop. The alien stood still, frozen in shock. Even Threx's smirk faltered for a moment. Hayes couldn't help himself. He laughed. Well, that's embarrassing, Hayes said, wiping his hand across his mouth as if he had just witnessed a toddler spill their juice. I guess your perfect technology isn't so perfect after all. The room was silent for a moment, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, slowly, almost reluctantly, Threx spoke. It seems we've underestimated you, human. Hayes raised an eyebrow. You haven't even begun to. But keep laughing. It won't be funny for much longer. And just like that, the seeds were sown. Hayes knew that the Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity. They thought their technology, their advanced weaponry, and their fearsome reputation could break him. But they didn't know the one thing that made humanity unique. And that was a mistake the Empire would come to regret. The malfunctioning weapon sparked one last time before completely powering down, and for a moment, the whole room went still. Commander Threx's expression twisted from smugness to confusion, his silver eyes narrowing as he looked from Hayes to the broken device. The silence that followed was a thick, uncomfortable kind, like a storm waiting to break. Hayes let out a low chuckle, savoring the rare victory. Guess it's true what they say. Even the best machines have a bad day. The alien commander's nostrils flared, his claws digging into the floor as he fought to regain composure. The soldiers around him exchanged nervous glances, clearly unsure of how to respond. Hayes wasn't sure if they were as accustomed to seeing their tech fail as they were to humiliating others, but it was clear this wasn't how they had planned things. One of the alien officers, a shorter but stocky creature with a bulbous head, stepped forward. It's malfunctioned, he said in a voice that suggested this was an unprecedented failure. Should we fix it? Threx's voice, when it came, was a low growl. No, leave it. I'll handle this personally. The tension in the room escalated, but Hayes wasn't one to let fear creep in. He straightened up and addressed Threx with a confident grin. Oh, don't be too hard on the machine. It had a tough day. I mean, look at this place. Hard to blame a thing for quitting when it sees the kind of company it's stuck with. A couple of human soldiers snickered under their breath, and even a few of the alien guards visibly twitched. Hayes could see the cracks forming in the Empire's facade. These creatures weren't as invincible as they wanted everyone to believe. But he knew this wasn't over. The real fight, the one that would determine if they lived or died, was about to begin. Threx held up his hand, signaling for the room to quiet down. His eyes were cold and calculating, assessing Hayes as though trying to figure out the best way to wipe that smug smile off his face. But Hayes wasn't backing down. He had something these aliens didn't. Human resolve. "I'm growing tired of this, human," Threx said, his voice dripping with malice. "You mock us. You think you can outweed us. But you're nothing more than a fleeting moment in the vastness of the galaxy. A mere speck." Hayes leaned forward, crossing his arms. "Oh, I'm sure you've told yourself that 1,000 times. But I've learned that the bigger the talk, the harder the fall. I wouldn't be so sure of yourselves." Threx's eyes gleamed with a predatory light, but instead of charging at Hayes, something unexpected happened. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. It was a sound unlike anything the humans had heard before, a sharp, almost musical tone that set the entire room on edge. "Commander Threx," a voice crackled through the room's intercom. "We have received new orders from the High Council. Immediate action is required." For a moment, the room collectively froze. The alien soldiers turned to their commander, waiting for instructions, their previous mockery evaporating in an instant. Threx, clearly taken aback by the sudden interruption, stood still for a beat before responding. "What new orders?" Threx snapped, his patience thinning. "I'm in the middle of—" "They are urgent," the voice interrupted, growing more insistent. "The High Council demands immediate compliance. We have received word of a new development." Threx's lip curled in frustration. "Fine," he muttered. "We will resume this later." He turned on his heel and motioned for the guards to step back. The sound of his claws scraping the floor as he walked toward the exit echoed through the chamber. As the commander made his way out, Hayes couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. The Empire's arrogance had been momentarily interrupted, and it was clear they were just as unprepared for this as they were for humanity's resilience. The guards, though still wary, seemed less sure of themselves now, caught between the unexpected interruption and their earlier belief that they held all the power. Bowers, standing next to Hayes, whispered, "Well, that's a plot twist, huh?" "I'll say," Hayes muttered back. "Let's just hope this new development is something that buys us some time." But before they could make any sense of what had just happened, the doors to the chamber slid open again. And this time, it wasn't Threx who entered. A new figure stepped through, a figure none of them had expected, least of all the humans. It was an alien, yes, but unlike any they had seen so far. This one was smaller, almost delicate-looking, but there was a sharp intelligence in its golden eyes that spoke volumes. Its skin shimmered faintly, like the surface of a calm lake at twilight, and its presence seemed to command attention without a single word. "I've been observing," the new alien said, its voice soft but unyielding. "And I believe we've misjudged the humans." The soldiers all turned to look, their expressions ranging from confusion to outright suspicion. Hayes had no idea who this new arrival was, but there was something about the creature that struck him as both unsettling and intriguing. "Who are you?" Threx demanded, his voice laced with authority, but there was a hesitation in it now, a crack in the armor of his superiority. The alien's eyes flicked toward him, unbothered by the commander's challenge. "I am not your concern, but I would suggest you take my words seriously. The situation has shifted. The High Council isn't the only power in this galaxy." A murmur ran through the room as the weight of those words settled in. Threx stiffened, his posture changing from irritation to wariness. The air grew thick with tension again. This wasn't the type of interruption Hayes had been expecting, and it wasn't clear if it would lead to anything good for them. But what was clear was this. The tables had turned. The new alien's gaze shifted back to Hayes, its golden eyes studying him with an intensity that was almost knowing. "The Empire is not as invincible as it seems," it said cryptically. "And your people? You might just surprise us all." Hayes raised an eyebrow, his earlier cynicism momentarily forgotten. "What's your game?" he asked, feeling the shift in the room. The alien smile was almost imperceptible. "A little chaos. A little change. Sometimes that's all it takes." And just like that, the whole story had taken an unexpected turn. The fate of humanity and the galaxy hung in the balance, and Hayes had the strange feeling that the game was about to change, forever. The room had grown eerily quiet, the tension palpable. Hayes could feel his heart rate steadying as he tried to make sense of the unexpected twist. The golden-eyed alien had delivered its cryptic message and then, with a cool nod, walked to the center of the chamber, where Threx stood frozen, his mouth open as if trying to form words but failing. "What in the depths of the galaxies was that?" Bowers muttered, his voice hushed. "Not a clue," Hayes replied, his eyes never leaving the alien. "But something tells me we just got a glimpse of something bigger." Commander Threx finally found his voice, albeit in a strangled, almost desperate tone. "You dare to speak like that in front of me, in my own command center? I am Threx, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Forces." "You!" The golden-eyed alien raised a hand, and instantly, the room seemed to hold its breath. The commander's words faltered and died on his tongue, as though a simple gesture had severed his authority. The guards, once so eager to follow Threx's every command, now looked uncertain, shifting uneasily on their feet. "I've heard enough of your declarations, Threx," the alien said, its voice smooth but laden with something almost amused. "Your empire has long overstayed its welcome in this sector, and it seems it's time for you to learn that the galaxy is not your playground anymore." Threx's eyes narrowed, the defiance in them unmistakable. "Who are you to question the Empire's will?" His voice had regained some of its earlier bluster, though now it was tinged with nervousness. "You may have startled us, but this is still our domain." "No, Threx," the alien said softly, stepping closer. "It is your empire that has overstayed. And now, it's time for you to reckon with the consequences." The golden-eyed creature gave a slow, deliberate glance toward Hayes and his soldiers, then turned back to Threx. "The High Council is weak. You are weak. The true power in the galaxy will no longer tolerate your arrogance." It took a deep breath, almost savoring the next words. "Humanity has a place in the future, while your empire is fading." A ripple of shock passed through the room, the alien guards visibly stiffening. Hayes could see the cracks in the once immovable facade of the Galactic Empire forming before his very eyes. Threx's lip curled in a snarl, but there was something almost defeated in his posture now, a realization creeping into the commander's mind that he had lost control. This wasn't the outcome he had expected when he first ordered humanity's capture, and that bitter taste of defeat was one that the Empire hadn't planned for. "Impossible," Threx hissed. "You're delusional. The Empire is invincible." "I am invincible." The alien tilted its head, studying the commander with a chillingly calm expression. "How many times has the Empire said that? How many times has it been proven wrong?" The room seemed to draw in a collective breath as the question landed. Even the guards seemed to waver in their allegiance, some eyes flicking between Threx and the golden-eyed alien. Hayes couldn't help but grin. This was it. This was the moment they'd been waiting for. "Well, Threx," Hayes said, stepping forward, "I guess you're about to learn a hard truth. Sometimes the bigger they are, the harder they fall." The commander spun toward Hayes, his anger boiling over. "You dare!" But before he could finish, a low rumble vibrated through the floor. The chamber's lights flickered, and the entire structure seemed to groan in response to some unseen force. The air seemed to thicken with energy, and Hayes instinctively moved to his men, ready for anything. "What in the—" Bowers began, but he was cut off as a sudden, violent crash erupted from the far wall. The outer door was torn from its hinges, and a wave of soldiers stormed into the room. Human soldiers. A new voice rang out over the comms, crisp and clear. "This is General Kavanaugh. We've breached the Empire's perimeter and neutralized the surrounding forces. The Empire's reign ends today." For the briefest of moments, the Imperial guards froze, processing the information as if their minds couldn't quite comprehend what was happening. But their hesitation was all it took. The humans moved swiftly, and before long, the room was filled with the sounds of battle. The Empire's once proud guards were taken by surprise, scattered by the ferocity of the human counterattack. Threx's face went pale as realization settled in. Asterisk, they had been outplayed star. For all their bluster, the Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity, assuming they were just another species to subjugate. But now, they were the ones who were subjugated. Hayes had played his cards carefully, biding his time and waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. And now, the tables had turned. "I know," Threx screamed, his voice cracking as he backed away. "This cannot be." Hayes stepped forward, his hand resting casually on his blaster. "Yeah, well, I guess your empire wasn't quite as invincible as you thought, was it?" The golden-eyed alien, watching the chaos unfold with cold detachment, finally spoke again. "Let this be a lesson, Threx. The galaxy changes. Empires rise and fall, and your time is up. Humanity has its place, and it's not beneath you." Hayes took a moment to glance around, making sure the rest of his team was still holding their ground. The Empire's forces, now fighting for their lives, were retreating in disarray. Even Threx, once so confident, was now scrambling, his earlier bravado evaporating into fear. The scene was chaotic, but Hayes couldn't help but enjoy the irony of it all. The same empire that had once mocked humanity was now crumbling before their eyes. "You've lost, Threx," Hayes said, his voice cutting through the din of battle. "And when this is over, the galaxy will remember you as the ones who thought they could break us. But instead, you'll be the ones who regret it." The commander's eyes flickered with a wild panic as he searched for a way out, but it was clear to everyone in the room that it was too late. His empire had faltered, and with it his authority had shattered. As the last of the Empire's soldiers were subdued, the golden-eyed alien turned to Hayes, offering a slight nod of approval. "Well done, human." Hayes smiled, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. "We're just getting started." And as the dust settled and the Empire's reign crumbled into nothingness, humanity stood tall, ready to take its place in the future of the galaxy. The Empire would never forget the day it underestimated the strength of the human spirit. The dust was still thick in the air, a lingering reminder of the chaos that had erupted only hours before. But now, there was an eerie calm, broken only by the occasional shout or order echoing through the halls. The Empire's once mighty fortress had fallen, and humanity stood victorious. Hayes surveyed the aftermath, a wide grin plastered across his face. He had never imagined this day would come, but here it was. The Galactic Empire, for all its vastness, its arrogance, had been toppled by a ragtag group of soldiers and a few well-timed moves. If he were to be honest with himself, Hayes had enjoyed every second of it. "Not bad for a bunch of unorganized humans, huh?" Bowers said, clapping Hayes on the back. His face was smudged with grime, his uniform torn in a few places, but the pride in his eyes was unmistakable. Hayes chuckled. "Yeah, well, guess we showed them what happens when you underestimate Earth." The golden-eyed alien from earlier, the one who had so boldly interrupted Threx's tirade, now stood beside them, silent but observant. It hadn't been a part of the initial attack, but somehow, its presence seemed to lend weight to the victory. The alien had made sure the final blow to the Empire's forces had been swift, its silent coordination with the humans turning the tide when it seemed the battle might drag on too long. Now, it appeared to be waiting for something. Hayes eyed it warily, but couldn't shake the feeling that in some strange way, it was on their side. "So, what now?" he asked, breaking the silence. The alien's golden eyes met his, a faint smile playing at the edges of its lips. Now the galaxy has changed. The High Council, the Empire, everything they built, everything they ruled over, will crumble. The new order has begun." Bowers raised an eyebrow. "And you're part of that new order, huh?" The alien nodded slowly. "Yes, I am, but I will not be the one to lead it. That, I believe, is your responsibility." Hayes blinked. "Wait, our responsibility? I'm pretty sure I'm still just trying to figure out how to fix my damn communicator. Leading the galaxy is a bit above my pay grade." The alien chuckled, a soft, melodic sound that seemed almost out of place in the war-torn setting. Leadership doesn't always follow traditional paths. Sometimes it takes the unexpected. Your people have proven something today, Hayes. Something no one thought possible. Right? Hayes said, a little uncomfortable. But, we didn't exactly come here to be leaders. The alien regarded him for a moment, its golden eyes flicking over the remnants of the Empire's army scattered around the room. Perhaps not, but you've won the respect of the galaxy today. You've demonstrated that humanity isn't just a fleeting moment in the stars. You've proven that you can stand against even the most powerful forces and come out on top. I guess you could say we're the new kids on the block, Bowers joked. But now that we've kicked their butts, what do we do next? I mean, the Empire is out. But what's left? The alien smile deepened. That, my friend, is where the real work begins. The Empire may have crumbled, but the galaxy is a vast place. There are countless species, countless worlds, each with its own problems. The Empire kept order through fear, but you can bring something different. You have the chance to build a new order. One based on cooperation, equality, and respect. Hayes couldn't help but laugh, the absurdity of it all settling in. You're asking us to build a galactic order? With what? A handful of soldiers and a bunch of battered old ships? The alien stepped forward, its voice quiet but insistent. It is not your numbers that matter, Hayes. It is your will, your resolve. That is what will shape this galaxy moving forward. You may not have started this fight as leaders, but today, you've earned that title. Bowers rubbed his forehead, looking around at the wreckage of the Empire's Grand Hall. Well, this is a lot to process. I mean, 1 minute we're prisoners, and the next, boom, we're setting up the future of the entire galaxy. Seems like a hell of a jump, Hayes agreed, but there was a spark in his eyes. But maybe that's what it's all about. The unexpected, right? The alien's gaze softened. Indeed, the unexpected often has the greatest impact. It was then that Hayes realized something. The galaxy might have been thrown into disarray by the fall of the Empire, but that didn't mean humanity was powerless. In fact, humanity had proven itself stronger than any one empire, more resilient than any alien species had given it credit for. It wasn't just the strength of their military tactics or their superior weaponry. It was their spirit, their unwavering belief that they could make a difference. It was their refusal to be subjugated. And now, that spirit would fuel the creation of something new. I suppose, Hayes said, taking a deep breath, we'll have to figure out how to organize all this chaos. But I'm not doing it alone. Bowers grinned. Oh, no, you're not. We're in this together. The alien nodded approvingly, then turned toward the distant stars. Good. That is the foundation upon which this new order will be built. Unity. For without unity, even the strongest empire will fall. With those final words, the alien stepped away, its figure dissolving into the shadows. It wasn't gone entirely, but it had left them with something more than just its presence. It had left them with hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity could rebuild what had been lost. That they could create something new. Hayes looked at Bowers, his grin returning. Well, I guess we better get started, huh? Bowers clapped him on the back again, harder this time. Yeah, no rest for the weary. We've got a galaxy to run, my friend. The two of them stood in the ruins of the Empire's once proud fortress, surrounded by the scattered remains of the invincible force that had once ruled the stars. They were far from home, and the road ahead was uncertain. But for the first time in a long while, Hayes felt that familiar spark of excitement. The universe had just shifted, and humanity was at the heart of that change. The old order was gone, and a new one was on the horizon. And this time, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were leading.